So the Yankees advanced to the ALCS last night for the first time in 24 years. For the first time since 2000, the Yankees and Mets are both in the championship series. So we are this close as we've been since the Subway Series to the Subway Series. Now, I was on TikTok Live last night. I'm going to be doing that from time to time after some of these big games, going on TikTok Live, talking about what happened. But I want to come on here because there were three main points. I was on for an hour and 20 minutes. But in that hour and 20 minutes, and I posted the full show. If you look at the my podcast feed, you could look and see that I posted the full show. If you look at the audio podcast feed, if you're not watching this on YouTube, it's right there. Maybe you've seen already. But three main points that I wanted to bring up that came out of that TikTok live about the Yankees and about the Mets. Number one is we need a Subway Series. As a baseball fan, as a New Yorker, I absolutely need a Subway Series for a couple of reasons. From the Yankees' perspective, this whole season, these whole last few seasons, feel like there's just expectation is so high that it's almost a pressure of if they don't come through, it's a letdown. But them winning is a relief. There's no excitement for them winning. It's just like, oh, whatever. Like you're just waiting for something negative to happen. That's how this whole season has felt. Like anything but a championship is ridiculous. And especially when you look at the path that was created for them in the AL, beating Kansas City. Now they have to go up against either Detroit or Cleveland. Also, trash teams from the AL Central. If the Yankees don't make the World Series, it's pathetic. And then you go to the World Series, and if it's the Padres or the Dodgers, like, whatever. There's no vibe. There's no winning a World Series would feel like nothing for the Yankees. They have to play the Mets for it to feel like something, because if they play the Mets, then all the pressure is on the Yankees. Then it feels like they absolutely have to deliver, and the Mets would be the hottest team coming in. It would be incredible. We cannot lose this series. We cannot have them be able to hold 2024 over us the way we've held 2000 over them for so many years as Yankee fans. Think about this year. The Mets crushed the Yankees in the regular season, and all Yankee fans talked about was, well, your team sucks, and we beat you in the World Series 24 years ago. Well, guess what? Now the Mets are great, and if the Yankees lose to them in the World Series, they'll never hear the end of it. The Yankees have to beat the Mets, and it would create such an energy for Yankee fans. On the other side, for the Mets fan, of course you need it to be a Subway Series, because if the Mets go on and face the Cleveland Guardians in the World Series and they lose, it'll feel like, all right, we lost the World Series, but what a magical season. This was the most memorable Mets season ever. Unbelievable. If they lose to the Dodgers or the Padres in the championship series, it'll feel like, man, this was a magical season. Didn't end the way we wanted, but we'll never forget this season. What great magic. The only way that the OMG, Gay Mets, Grimace Mets, Paktua Mets, all these crazy things, Rally Pimp, all these things that happened to the Mets this year, the only thing that can ruin that can put a damper on it, would be if they lost the World Series to the Yankees. And imagine the pressure on both fan bases. The Yankee fan, we cannot lose to, especially not to the Mets, in a must-win season for us. We don't know if Juan Soto's leaving next year. We have to win the World Series. We certainly cannot lose to the Mets, the team that we've been holding that championship over for the last 25 years. We cannot allow that to happen. On the other side, the Mets, any other result for this season, any other way this season ends, it would just be like, okay, magical season. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso came alive. All the magic that happened throughout the season, we'll never forget it. Great vibes. Okay, you didn't win the World Series, but only one team that wins the World Series every year. It wasn't us this year. But if they lose to the Yankees, everything that happened since June, everything that happened to this Mets team gets flushed down the drain. And that would be the worst possible scenario for the New York Mets. So I need a Subway Series, because I know that the pressure in this city on both franchises will be so turned up that one way or another, it's going to be chaos. And that will be the most intense World Series we have seen possibly in the last 30 years. That World Series would be crazy. I need it to happen, and we're this close to it. Two of the final four teams are now the Mets and the Yankees. And not only that, they're the two teams waiting on their opponents. There's four other teams who are still battling, while the Yankees and Mets are just relaxing, waiting for their opponents. They took care of their series in 4 games. What a world we're living in as New York sports fans. That's number one. Number two, the New York Mets. I hear a lot of people, because I just said it, are playing with house money. Right at this point, anything is a win. I mean, we've gotten this far. We didn't expect it, other than losing to the Yankees. Anything's a win. No. I don't buy that. Here's why. I'm a Ranger fan, as you see wearing this. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a Knicks fan. Missed opportunities always come back to bite you and they will haunt you forever. Think about the Rangers in 2022. This team is so young. We have the veterans, we have the young players, we have Igor, Kreider with a magical season, all these things that happened, Lafreniere and Kako and Keto. The kid line is growing up before our eyes. That was the call in game one against Tampa in that conference finals. And the Rangers went up 2-0 against Tampa, had a 2-0 lead in game three. It seemed like they were actually going to the Stanley Cup final. I remember where I was. I was at a hotel at a bar watching the game. And I'm like, wait, the Rangers are actually going to the Stanley Cup final. This is crazy. And then they blew the lead. And then they blew the game. And then they blew the series. And they haven't made it as far since. The next year, they get that crazy series where they go up 2-0 again against the Devils and lose. Last year, they get dominated by Florida. You never know when that opportunity is going to come back to bite you. And you want to talk about even further, how about the Yankees? Think about the Yankees in 2017. Aaron Judge comes up. Gary Sanchez is young. Luis Severino, dominant young starter. You're thinking this is going to be a dynasty forever. Well, now the only guy left from that team is Aaron Judge. Sanchez gone. Severino gone. So they lost in game 7 of the ALCS. All right, we'll be back. No, they haven't been as far since. In 18, and Duhar, Gleyber Torres, these guys have these monster breakouts. Man, the youth movement, the baby bombers, it feels like this is going to be the team of the future. We went out and got Giancarlo Stanton. He just hit 59 home runs and was an MVP in the National League. This is going to be crazy forever for the Yankees. If you would have told me that there'd be 5 different iterations of this Yankee team since 2017 and none of them won a World Series, none of them got even as far as that 17 team did, I wouldn't believe you. So think about it. The missed opportunity in 17 to go out and beat the Astros and win that series up 3-2 going back to Houston, that missed opportunity will haunt the Yankees forever. And why I say 5 different iterations of that team, think about it. The first year is just the Judge year. There's Starling Castro, there's Chase Headley, there's all these different guys. Matt Holliday was on that team, just a weird kind of fun team, unexpected team. Then the next year it's the youth movement, the baby bombers. Then in 2000, so those, I would call them 2 different teams, 2 different iterations. 19 is the next man up team. So it felt like 17, 18, 19 was really 3 different versions of the Aaron Judge Yankees. 19 was the next man up with Talkman and all those guys, Wendy Peralta, those guys, every single time they needed someone to come up and contribute. They did. And then the 20 through 22 seasons, I would say, is like really one iteration where it's Luke Voigt and Joey Gallo and just weird stuff. And they get Garrett Cole, but they're never great. It never felt like this team was really good enough to win. The closest they got was 22, where they got swept and weren't even close in the championship series against Houston again. So that didn't feel like anything. So that's the 3rd iteration. Or sorry, that's the 4th iteration of the team. And then the 5th iteration is the most recent one, the Juan Soto Yankees. And to think that we've had 5 different iterations of this Yankee team since 2017, 5 different versions of the Aaron Judge Yankees, and not one of them got even as far as the 17 Yankees did, that tells you everything you need to know. You have to take advantage of an opportunity when it's in front of you. The Yankees didn't, unfortunately, and it's come back to bite them. Mets fans, watch this. Do not tell me it's house money, because you are now 4 wins away from a World Series, 8 wins away from a championship. There's only 1 opponent standing in your way from getting to a World Series, 2 opponents from winning a championship. Do not tell me this is house money. You don't know what this team's going to be next year. You don't know where Pete Alonso's going. You don't know if you're getting Juan Soto. Lindor, as amazing as he's been, he's got a back issue now and he's getting older. Severino, Quintana, Minaya, can you get the same kinds of seasons from those guys again? Can you really rely on that? Not really, right? So the Mets need to take advantage of this opportunity that's sitting in front of them right now and win a championship this year. It is not house money. And the last point I want to make is a really interesting comparison for the New York Yankees. And this is not true if they play the Mets. Let me put that out there right now, because like I said, with the Yankees and the Mets, or maybe it is true if they play the Mets, even if they play the Mets. All right, I'll tell you what it is. I want to draw a parallel between the New York Yankees and the Boston Celtics in the NBA. Just like the Boston Celtics, they had this core of Jalen and Jason, and they were really good, but they never really got it done in the big time in the postseason. They made a finals, but it wasn't, never felt like they were close to winning a championship. They were really outmatched in that series. And then they bring in Drew Holiday. They bring in Kristaps Porzingis. They bring in White. They bring in all these guys that feels like, oh, now they're a great team. That would be like the Yankees bringing in Juan Soto, theoretically. All right, Carlos Rodon, maybe you want to add him to that list. And then they go win a championship. But the whole season, it felt like they were never challenged. Miami dealt with injuries. The Bucks dealt with injuries. Obviously, the Knicks got hurt in the playoffs. They faced a pretty bad Indiana Pacers team that only got there because other teams were so banged up. Philly dealt with injuries and ultimately lost to the Knicks. The whole regular season, the Celtics kind of cruised to the number one seed. The Yankees, the same thing. The Yankees were never great this year. They got off to a really hot start, but then they were just kind of like, the rest of the year. And still they got the number one seed in the in the AL, in the American League. So it kind of feels the same thing as the Celtics being the number one seed in the East. And then you get to the playoffs. Houston gets eliminated right away. They're your biggest rival, right? They're the team that always finds a way to beat you. They get knocked out. The Orioles, who are been a thorn in your side in your own division the last couple of years, they get knocked down. Now all of a sudden, you're left with Kansas City and a bunch of other teams from the American League Central. It feels like, all right, I guess we're going to the World Series. And the Celtics, the same thing. They kind of cruise to the World Series. As dominant as it's been, they never felt like they were clicking on all cylinders. I don't think the Yankees were clicking at all in that series against Kansas City, yet they dominated them for the most part. The pitching absolutely crushed Kansas City, where it felt like the Yankees never, well, they were okay in that series. They didn't play their best ball at all. They haven't played their best baseball since probably May or June. And that's what's interesting. If the Yankees go on and win the World Series, it could feel dominant, where the Celtics ultimately go to the conference or to the NBA championship and face the hottest team in the league. Luka Doncic, a superstar, putting a team on his back, carrying them. That would be the Mets, right? Hot team. You could talk about the Padres, would be similar. Hot team, superstar carrying them. But they weren't really a great team. And the Celtics dominated them. And despite never getting a great performance from Tatum, never getting a really great performance from Brown, they still just kind of slid to a championship. I don't know, kind of glided to a championship the whole season. The Yankees haven't gotten a ton from Soto or Judge in this postseason. They haven't gotten a ton from Judge in the last few weeks. And it feels like they're kind of just coasting to a championship. If they win a championship, it will be very similar to the Boston Celtics championship. All right, those are 3 points I wanted to make about this upcoming or the next couple of weeks of baseball, as the Yankees and Mets are both in the ALCS, AL and LCS. So the league championship series, respectively, the Yankees and Mets are both there. I need a Subway Series. I want it bad. Rami LV podcast, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate you all for listening. If you want to go to one of these Subway Series, one of these LCS games, either in Citi Field or at Yankee Stadium or wherever you may be, you can use my name, Rami LV, first and last full name, on SeatGeek to get $20 off your next order at SeatGeek. That $20 can go a long way. So again, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate you all for listening. See you.